Welcome to Tilly's Trans Tuesdays. Time to dive into your survey responses and see how other trans and non-binary folks feel about physical contact in Trans Touch 2, Platonic Touch and Hugs. Hi, I'm Tilly Bridges, your host, and I'm joined by my writing partner, my best friend, my wife, our token cis representation, the lady whose hugs I never want to leave, Susan Bridges.
Hello.
Our returning guest is Erin Rodriguez, a Southern California-based painter and color designer for animation and comics. She's worked on shows like Praise Petey and the upcoming King of the Hill series, as well as colored stories for The Loud House and Los Casagrandes for Papercut's graphic novels. Whenever she's not creating, she's watching horror movies, listening to punk music, or reading comics. Welcome back, Erin.
Thanks for having me again.
Of course. Okay, so what is it that you love about horror movies so much?
It's so funny because I very much so love the idea that horror and queer identities are very tied to each other.
Sure.
Especially with, I think it was last year's movie, The Substance.
The Substance, yeah.
I've never had a movie like just put me in a chokehold like that. It really like made me think about just my identity as a woman and seeing myself like these images in like a horror form. It was just depicted in a very artful way, obviously very bloody and gory, but it was just, I don't know, there's something about horror that kind of that dives deep into the psyche of like, you know, your biggest fears or your biggest insecurities. And yeah, the horror definitely like gets me.
Yeah, The Substance was wild. It's the most movie I have ever seen. And I think I've said to people about it, like, if at any point you think it will be not the most, it will immediately become the moster. It is so wild. It's so intense. And I don't know, I don't know that I can ever watch it again, but I will never forget it. And I think about it often. So it's, yeah.
But yeah, really digging into the whole, you know, aging, women feeling like they're not worthy of existing, and the trade-in for a new model thing that is so common.
Because we've absorbed, tying into our last episode, the crappy sandwich of everything society has force-fed us.
The misogyny of, you know, the guy having the midlife crisis, dumping his wife for someone, you know, younger and prettier and more perfect, and like all of those things kind of roll into it. And it's really, it is a lot.
It is intense.
Yeah.
Are there certain kinds of horror that you like more than others? Are you like more into the supernatural stuff? Are you more into the body horror? Like, where do you really get into it?
Definitely a little bit of everything, because I do love me like the slasher genre, just like with Halloween or like you know, Black Christmas and things like that. But with diving into The Substance, it really reminded me of things like Society from the 80s and a lot of what's his face, Video Rome. I can't think of his name. Video Rome and like David Cronenberg.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, after getting into The Substance and all that body horror stuff, with diving into David Cronenberg, yes, like all of that sort of stuff. I love a little bit of everything for sure, especially the psychological stuff.
Yeah,
I would say that as long as it has a wonderful story, I'm paying attention to the screenplay a whole lot more, which is why I love some of that elevated horror stuff. With like Ari Aster stuff like Hereditary and Midsummer, or even like the, you know, on the ideas that Pearl brings up. So anything that is really good, I really like.
Now it's my turn to forget the guy's name. What's the guy that does all the Netflix horror shows? And I really love them.
Oh, yeah. Mike
Flanagan.
Mike Flanagan.
Have you seen his shows with Midnight Mass and The House on Haunted Hill and The Haunting of Bly Manor? Those are really good. He's really good. I really like his sort of...
But I'm realizing like horror is like sci-fi. It's like everything. Horror is kind of every genre, where sci-fi could also be like every genre.
Sure.
Like,
there's lots of different kinds of horror.
Yeah.
Well, and the interesting...
It's like such a broad thing
I think about horror, too, is that horror and comedy are, I think, two sides of the same coin. Because both of them are about provoking an emotional response in you. Mm-hmm. And they're both very reliant on timing and editing and how that all comes together to make you laugh or to make you scared or to make you creeped out. And so I think they're very similar. I think that's also probably why I like horror comedies so much, the melding of the two. That is some stuff.
The unexpectedness of it too.
Yeah.
Like,
or laughing at something that horrifies you is kind of, and you're like, oh, I shouldn't be laughing at this. It's, you made me do that. How dare you? And I love you for it.
So now we're getting all theoretical and artsy.
It's what happens when you get a bunch of creative people together. All right. Well, for you, what has been the most surprising thing about your transition?
The most surprising thing about my transition definitely has to be how much I really care about how I look. I guess that's the thing where it comes to, it's the womanly thing, or the thing that society expects women to be. I'm always checking my hair before, going out and everything, but I really, really care about... Yeah, I really, really care
your
about
hair
my
does
appearance.
look very glorious, so...
Thank you, I appreciate that. It is the thing where, like, I'm researching, like, what is my hair type? Is this shampoo gonna make me lose hair? Or that sort of thing. And just kind of really taking that extra care for myself and, like, making sure that, I mean, it goes with a lot of trans people, we want to make sure that we look feminine enough or whatever. So if you were to talk to Erin 10 years ago, a flannel would have been fine, a flannel and jeans or whatever. But now I carefully coordinate any of my outfits or whatever it may be. So I love me some color. I can't do bland. I can't do bland outfits anymore.
We are on the same page.
Yes. So I would say the most surprising thing is, like, I very much so care about how I appear to people.
Sure. Yeah. I think that kind of ties into a little bit of what you said last time, whereas like before, also, like, I didn't care, like, was taking a shower and I needed to wash my hair. Is there a shampoo? I don't care what it is. I will use it. That's fine. If there isn't, I'll just use a bar of soap on my head. I don't give a crap. I actually did that through a lot of high school because I didn't care.
That.
Yeah. And, you have, I think there's that standard sort of trans girl pre-transition with just a t-shirt and cargos because we don't care what it is. It's the uniform. You just throw on whatever.
Definitely had a uniform.
That was baggy and could hide things because you didn't want to see your body or be reminded of it. And it is so wild. Like,
although you did have purple shorts.
I did. Anyway, moving on. Let's not talk about my purple shorts from high school. Thank you for bringing that up.
But now Tilly has
I would
all the expensive
I would wear
products.
Purple shorts, but they would be cute ones that went with my outfit.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's move on to the hair and the cosmetics and the...
Yes.
You have all the expensive...
Yeah, but I agree also that it was surprising because, again, it was one of those things I didn't know why people cared about those things. And I didn't understand. I didn't think I ever could or would, or, it was like, why would anybody? Why would you care? What's the point? And then it's like, oh, I get it now. I'm a human being finally. So
exactly, with like skincare and things, like especially now with like the hot Southern California summers.
Yeah.
I think within the last few years I've been wearing sunscreen, but like again, Erin 10 years ago wouldn't have worn sunscreen. And now it's like I want a good sunscreen that isn't sticky or smell like, very harshly like sunscreen. But it is I think we understand where like having the nice expensive things, it's just, it makes me feel nice.
Yes, I've got 2 different lotions for my face. I've got 2 different under eye creams. I've got a different like skin cream for my arms. I'm very high maintenance now, which is also surprising, I suppose.
Girl, same. Me too. Understandable.
See, we get each other. This is great.
Totally.
Okay, before we get into this week's topic, do you want to let folks know one more time where they can find you online after listening?
I'm Heyo Erin on Blue Sky and Heyo Erin Paints on Instagram, where you're going to find my paintings, comics, things of that nature, creative things.
And they're all awesome, so definitely go look her up.
Thank you.
Okay. For my own personal journey regarding physical contact and my transition and understanding why the entire concept is so difficult for some trans folks, be sure you first check out Trans Touch 1, released last week in episode 120. Before we get to the results of the touch survey that I ran, I want to mention a few things. This is not a scientific survey because I am not a psychologist or a sociologist, nor do I have the knowledge or resources to pull off a fully scientific study. I'm just one lady trying to help. As such, that means this is all anecdotal, but then so is a whole lot of stuff regarding trans people because we're such a small part of the population that it's not profitable for people to do lots of studies on us. Listen to episode 20 of this show on anecdotal trans healthcare for more. Also, to keep this survey manageable for everyone taking it and for me in compiling and talking about the responses, it simply cannot account for every factor that may impact people's feelings around touch and physical contact. Yes, some people who took the survey said their feelings around touch may be affected by autism, and others said they may be affected by PTSD or other issues, and some people who answered the questions around consensual sexual touch said they were asexual, which of course factored into their responses. But that's all well outside the purview of discussing transness and would have made the survey unwieldy and inscrutable for one lone, but very smart and beautiful woman to make any sense out of. My goal was to get a sense of trans people's feelings around touch at a more macro level, to look for commonalities or things that stand out. I simply cannot account for every variation humans experience with everything that might factor in. As such, please note that there may be varying reasons for all of these answers, but all of these answers are from self-identified trans or non-binary people. And that was the point. Also, while we can easily look at the total number of responses to poll questions, I also included a free-form portion at the end for any additional thoughts folks might have. I did not expect 361 people to take the survey, much less for the vast majority of you to put additional thoughts in, which ranged from a sentence to nearly full essays. As such, I cannot include the additional thoughts of everyone, or even the full thoughts of most of the comments that I will share. Comments from the survey respondents are excerpts and have been edited for length only. I did not and would not change the content of any of them, and I do not know who they're from because the survey was intentionally anonymous. Okay, before we get into the results, Erin, I wanted to ask if you saw this survey and if you took it.
I unfortunately did not. I did not see it, but I'm really interested. I would like to be the 302nd response.
You will be, because we're going to go through it all together.
Yay.
All right, ready or not, here we go. The first question as our baseline for who was responding was, have you transitioned for whatever transition means to you? I cannot define someone else's transition. Nobody can define someone else's transition because it means different things to all of us. You will find no transmedicalism here. Listen to episode 60 of this show on that very topic if you need more info. So there's not a lot to discuss with this question except to note that the vast majority of respondents, 83.7%, consider themselves to have transitioned or to presently be transitioning. 16.3% said they did not consider themselves to have transitioned. All right, question 2. Pre-transition, what were your feelings around being touched non-sexually by other people, i.e. hand-holding a hand on your shoulder, etc.? 31.9% of people were indifferent, 28% hated it, 18.6% enjoyed it, 11.6% sought it out, 10% avoided it at all costs. What we see here is that during quote-unquote pre-transition, which includes folks who don't feel they have transitioned yet or never will, the negative feelings around non-sexual touch are remarkably high. If you group the hated it category and the avoided it at all costs category together, they amount to 38%, and that is well over a third of respondents having a remarkably negative view of being touched. Only 30.2%, just under a third, liked it, quote-unquote enjoyed it, being that you liked it when it happened, and quote-unquote sought it out, meaning that it was something you actively tried to find. Nearly 32% were indifferent to being touched, which isn't necessarily a negative view of it, but it certainly isn't a positive one either. What is interesting, though, is that if you define the results by those who liked touch, 30.2%, and those who didn't, you find 60% of pre-transition respondents did not like being touched, and that is pretty huge. All right, so then we look at how it changed after transition. Question 3, after or during transition, what were your feelings around being touched non-sexually by other people? Handholds, a hand on your shoulder, etc. 37.4% sought it out. 26.3% enjoyed it. 13.9% indifferent. 13% had not transitioned. 7.8% hated it. 1.7% avoided it at all costs. And holy shit, look at that shift. Seeking it out went from 11.6% to 37.4%. Enjoyed it went from 18.6 to 26.3. And those who were indifferent dropped from 31.9 to 13.9. And that is huge. Before, those who didn't like being touched were the largest group at 60% of respondents. Now it's only 23.4%. All of these numbers are a little higher if you reduce the pool of respondents to only those who transitioned, as 13% of those who answered this question hadn't. So what you see here is an overwhelming positive shift to people liking or wanting platonic friendly touch during or after transition. Okay, so what were your thoughts on these two questions, Erin? I mean, from what we talked about last episode, it sort of tracks with your own experiences, but have you noticed similar things on like other trans and non-binary people you know? Did anything in here surprise you?
So definitely, like, it just really tracks that, like, previously, before transitioning,
Yeah.
not wanting or caring, or it was just, there being touched by other people,
Yeah.
being very high, and post-transition is so much larger.
Yeah.
I would have to say that, like, experiencing it out in the open, like, a lot more trans and non-binary people are kind of, like, touchy in terms of, like, it could be a fist bump or it could be a high
Yeah.
five or whatever it may be. I don't know too many trans, I don't have many trans friends, unfortunately, out, like, that I see. I have a lot of them online, unfortunately,
Sure.
and know that I would consider you a friend and I would absolutely give you a hug if I, got the chance.
Yeah, we're gonna hug.
Absolutely. It's gonna happen and everyone's gonna know about it.
Yeah.
But yes, it is one of those things where, like, if I were to see one of these friends again, if I saw them, like, in person, absolutely, I would love to give them a hug. Absolutely, I would love to, be present with them. So it, it is funny that it's not surprising. It's funny that it isn't really surprising at all.
Yeah, like I figured based on my own experiences and the trans and non-binary people that I know that there would be a positive shift, but I think I was a little surprised at how big that shift was. Like it made a huge impact for a lot of people, and that's really cool.
Yeah, totally. Like, seeing that big gap, seeing the numbers is insane.
Right?
Yeah.
Like when you look at like the little pie chart, you're like, holy crap, that's so much more. Yeah. Well, here are some respondent thoughts around platonic touch and how it may have shifted with transition. Let's start with some about the general change in body and mind that came with transition. I enjoyed but was ashamed of and uncomfortable with asking for touch before HRT. I spent a very long time pre-HRT but out as trans or non-binary, and that persisted. Post-HRT, I am still learning how to ask for touch, and there never feels like enough. I had this too, where I felt like I didn't deserve it because my body wasn't mine. So anyone who wanted to touch it actually wanted to touch whoever it belonged to, and that wasn't me. It was a very weird space to be in. I never could enjoy being in my headspace when I was touched pre-transition. I wanted to enjoy, but felt uncomfortable, and I really regret giving off those vibes to my partner. My feelings have changed in that I feel more protective and selective over my physical space. I don't know if this comes from being less dissociated or what, but I'm much more aware of my body in a way that I like, but that has also been a challenge to figure out. Yeah, nobody gives you rule books for this crap. Just the emotional and mental acceptance of being trans seems to have completely opened up a whole new world of touch sensitivity with my partner. The thought of being touched sometimes makes me uncomfortable. Sometimes it's sort of like repulsion, but without thinking gross. I just didn't want it. I'm pretty sure my dysphoria is part of this. The body I see is not the one I want and isn't really me. Makes it hard to find it enjoyable. That is absolutely what I went through too. I didn't realize how alone I felt pre-transition. It was like existing in a void. Transitioning opened my eyes and revealed just how much I needed to touch, be touched, and connected to the people around me. Yes, yes. 10 million, 1,000 billion times yes.
That's exactly how I felt.
Yeah, yeah. That void, it's so lonely pre-transition, especially if you have dysphoria. You just feel cut off from the entire world.
And from your own emotions, for that matter.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Touch was something I needed to be careful with pre-transition because touch is a shortcut to emotions, and emotions were dangerous. Now that I'm not trying to keep feelings bottled up all the time, there's less need to avoid touch. I also dealt with that, where if you opened yourself up to the feelings in that dark, cobwebby corner of your psyche that you knew you weren't supposed to look into, you might find something you couldn't put back in there, and then you'd have to deal with it.
It's funny that you have that one there, is because like it's really different from my background because I come from a Mexican family.
Yeah.
And I never really got to show a lot of emotion growing up, which is why, in the previous episode I mentioned that like I am now present with my family a lot more. It
Yeah.
really wasn't there. I never really got to say at the very end, like calling my parents, love you, mom and dad. That's more of a very recent thing for me. So ever since transitioning, being connected with those emotions and kind of leaving all of that machismo idea behind,
Yeah.
very, very liberating.
It is. It is so liberating. I wonder, there are some comments that we'll get to later, I think in this episode or the next, from trans men talking about sort of the other side of it, and they experience it the other way, which has got to be really tough. Pre-transition, I both enjoyed and avoided contact of all types, as in I craved physical contact but did not allow myself any. Same. I was so alone and scared, and all I wanted was that human connection, but I couldn't get it, both because it might open up that dark cobwebby corner, but also because my dysphoria made it impossible. Again, check out episode 59 on gender dysphoria, where one example I give is like I was separated from everyone I cared about by a 6-foot thick invisible wall. I never so much as held hands with a person romantically until after I had begun transition, at which point the affirmative desire for touch became more important to me. After I got on estrogen and got more comfortable with my body, I started feeling like I needed touch more and feel increasingly frustrated by not getting it. This absolutely happened for me too. Transition can help you realize everything that you've been missing, and then you want to fill up that void as quick as you can. Before, it was more, quote unquote, someone is interacting with the body I wear. Now, touch is, quote unquote, I'm allowing access to an aspect of my vulnerability. Pre-transition, I wanted to have these forms of touch, but didn't feel comfortable with actually accepting touch, and accepted that I probably just didn't deserve it. Post-transition, I still want to have these forms of touch, but now I'm learning to be more comfortable with accepting touch and how to communicate that with people in my life. Not having every interaction clouded with dysphoria is likely responsible for most of this. I feel like I was probably as affectionate a person as I am today. I just didn't let myself express it or understand why it felt so wrong to express. This is common for a lot of us, I think, where we find that transition didn't change us so much as let us be more of who we already were and just couldn't get to.
Which is very interesting to say, because like, what if I was this person all along, but I
Yeah.
never had the opportunity. I never had access to those feelings or access to that part of my brain or whatever it is to let myself enjoy them.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel it was for me. Like, I don't feel like there have been little changes here and there because people always change all the time throughout their lives, but I feel mostly like this is who was always in there and just couldn't get out. And now I'm out and those barriers are gone and I can just be me. That's what it mostly feels like from inside, in my perspective anyway. Here's a couple comments from folks on how just their egg cracking opened up new avenues. I want casual touch with friends. I didn't know this until half a year after cracking. After my egg cracked, I find touch of all kinds more palatable, despite not getting to do any transitioning yet. Here's some on the difficulties of touch that are compounded based on the gender society perceives you as. Before transition, I definitely felt less comfortable being touched and felt weird about the concept of being allowed to enjoy touch, especially from women. Now that I've transitioned, I feel comfortable enough with myself and my body that I feel much freer to enjoy touch, and it turns out I really do want it after all. As a trans woman, pre-transition me longed for touch and physical contact, but asking for it or even accepting it when offered felt awful, like I was being predatory. That feeling has faded dramatically as my transition has gone on, and casual contact with other women is just good and normal and comfortable now. I found this too, but also in ways beyond physical touch. Check out episode 27 of this show on compliments, and how the active transition finally made me feel like I could compliment another woman on something as mundane as her shoes and not have it be creepy. I wonder how different the assigned male at birth versus assigned female at birth experience is. As a trans guy, I personally feel very starved of physical contact, but back when I was still presenting as a cis female, it seemed like people wouldn't keep their hands off of me. Do people avoid contact with me because I'm now trans or because I'm now a man? It feels like a bit of both. I feel like trans guys probably do get caught up in some folks' aversion to being touched by cis men for obvious and understandable reasons. Ask your trans guy friends if they want hugs. And here's a bunch of comments on how feeling like we have bodily autonomy, again, as talked about in episode 55, can drastically change things. Touch has gotten much more comfortable for me, both post-transition and with a better understanding of my own experiences, needs, and boundaries. I enjoy being in my own body in ways I couldn't before, including experiencing all kinds of sensations I used to hate, like exertion and the awareness of my own body that's forced when I exercise. There's plenty I'm still very uncomfortable with, but things are shifting in a good way. I also get a lot of joy and comfort from my cat, who is the reason I'm never touch-starved. Cats are amazing and great at boundaries. My cat enforcing his own boundaries taught me so much, actually. Yes, cats are excellent at teaching people boundaries and bodily autonomy. They will accept your affection when they want it, and they won't accept it when they don't. And that's how it should be. Cats are the best.
A lot of queer people have cats.
Well, I think that's part of the reason.
A lot.
I like that test that people have said that, like, if you're someone who dates men and if the man has a cat, that's like a good exercise in consent.
Yeah.
And that's like a good green flag. So I don't know. I really like that idea.
Yeah, it is. There's definitely something to it. Because if you respect a cat, you can respect a human. Like, the cat will make you respect them. You can't force your affection on them. They just won't let you. So
that's true. That's true.
Yeah. Pre-transition, I sought touch as a kind of validation, despite the deep-seated internal sense that something was wrong with me. Post-transition, I'm much more able to enjoy touch for its own sake, as well as being an expression of love and affection. Simply put, my body feels like it's mine now, so touch feels less like reassurance that I'm worthy of love, affection, and comfort, and more like an actual expression of those things. I've been with my partner for years, and the biggest impact for her has been that, quote, "you don't flinch when I touch you anymore." This one broke my heart a little, if only because I feel so much like that was me with everyone but my wife and kid for all of my life. Being touched in some ways felt like a violation of my body, no matter what context pre-transition. Now that I understand my body, there's still plenty of dysmorphia and dysphoria, but it's something I want to learn to navigate instead of just completely writing out of my life. Just the desire to be open to touch changing is huge, truly. That's where everything begins. All right, we're moving on to the next question. Question 4, pre-transition. What were your feelings about being consensually hugged? 38% enjoyed it, 28.8% sought it out, 19.9% were indifferent, 17.2% hated it, and 4.2% avoided it at all costs. What you see here is over 50% of people pre-transition liking hugs, and much less on the negative side. Even when factoring in those who are indifferent, the majority still liked hugs. I personally find this fascinating because there seems to be a different view of hugs than of other non-sexual touch. I find hugs to be more intimate than holding hands or a hand on the shoulder or arm, but maybe that's just me. Does this mean it's more socially acceptable for people to hug, so we're taught to do it more often and grow accustomed to it, even in spite of possible gender dysphoria? Not every trans person has dysphoria, of course, just to remind you. I don't know, but it's incredibly interesting to me that there's such a perception shift among these two kinds of platonic touch. Question 5. After or during transition, what were your feelings about being consensually hugged? 47.4% sought it out, 31% enjoyed it, 13% have not transitioned, 5.3% were indifferent, 2.5% hated it, 0.8% avoided it at all costs. And look at that huge shift again. Almost half of all respondents who'd transitioned or are transitioning now seek out hugs. And when you factor in those who also enjoy hugs, that is well over 75% of those who've transitioned liking hugs. I expected, again, that there would be a positive shift in these things with transition, not just because it mirrors my own experiences, but because of what I've seen in all the trans and non-binary people I know. And yes, again, this is anecdotal, but it also seems really clear that in terms of platonic touch, holding hands, a hand on an arm, hugs, transitioning does so much to make us more comfortable with them and to like them. And it is wild what feeling like your true self can do for you. Okay, Erin, I want to ask you, do you consider hugs more intimate than other forms of platonic touch? Am I weird in thinking that they are? Because it seems like from these results that most people treat them as less intimate than holding hands.
Yeah, you're weird.
I'm weird? Susan says I'm weird.
I mean, would you hold hands with any friend?
Sure.
Okay, yeah, you're weird.
It really depends for me. For me personally, when it comes to hugging, I definitely do it with all of my good friends or someone who I haven't seen in a very long time. But when it comes to like, I don't know, I guess holding hands or whatever, that's definitely for my partner and I. We don't really do that, actually, thinking about it. But
okay,
it's just, I guess, our dynamic. But when it comes to hugging, I would only really do it for people who are close to me. That's just my thing. If it's someone that I've known, like let's say at work or whatever, and they're like, hug, and I'll be like, okay, hug. It's not necessarily like a very weird thing. If they ask me, sure. But like, I definitely would only do it for close friends, and family sort of thing. That is my personal thing.
Yeah. I think maybe what this is making me realize now is maybe I'm like, in my head, there's two different kinds of hugs. There's the hugs I'll give people I just met because it's nice to meet you. And then there are the hugs I give people that are my longtime friends or you or our kid, where like there's so much more emotion in them for me. And so I think maybe that's where I was getting it feels more intimate to me because, like if I'm hugging my friend, I want you to know that I love you, So yeah, I guess there are different kinds of hugs.
Well, yes.
All right, let's check out some of your comments around hugging. Post-transition, I feel like I've become a lot more sensitive to the social cues of others with respect to their intentions to make physical contact with me. I'm much less surprised now if someone hugs me, in part because I'm more comfortable, but also because I'm much better at noticing and understanding their intentions. I relate to this a lot. It's like you finally understand why someone would want a hug, to wrap someone in their arms and be wrapped up in return. It was legit hard to understand when everything about my body made me scream in horror. I wish more people could be non-sexually physically affectionate, more hugs, holding hands, just being in contact, without making it weird or assuming there's something more going on. I think that would be so nice. I think so too. I mean, with consent, of course. But normalizing closeness would go a long way to alleviating a lot of the isolation and loneliness that so many people face. Pre-transition, I feel like I was wanting more contact, but didn't feel like I was allowed to, or I was worried that it might come off as creepy. Now I'm more comfortable asking for hugs, but casual touch still seems kind of unfamiliar. This one confirms what we saw in the survey responses in that hugs are easier for some than other forms of platonic or friendly touching, and that is fascinating to me. Post-transition, I'm also much better at refusing unwanted touch. I still don't like hugging strangers, it's far too intimate an act. And modern corporate culture is very huggy, so in the past I felt I just had to endure it. Today, I'm much better at gently deflecting proffered hugs from casual workplace acquaintances, although the bar for being willing to embrace somebody is also much lower, and I enjoy it more when I do. Yes, bodily autonomy returns for the win. The right to refuse unwanted touch is just as important as the right to ask or seek out the consensual touch you need. I still hate people that call themselves huggers and insist that means they should always be allowed to hug whoever they want, no matter whether that person is comfortable with it. As a hugger, I completely agree with you. Again, this is why I ask people if they do hugs before I attempt to hug them. It's not difficult to respect other people's boundaries and needs. It's no different than asking people their name and pronouns. And there's an essay all about those at
SillyTransTuesdays.com.
Yeah, but then a whole lot of our society struggles with names and pronouns too. I suspect they're actually related because a whole lot of people would just rather not have to think about how what they say or do affects others. Pre-transition, I enjoyed touch, but I was not willing to ask for it or seek it out. I'd be the one hanging back when people were giving hugs because it felt like even being there would be equivalent to asking for a hug, which would be an imposition. Post-transition or mid-transition, it was much easier to ask for and accept touch. I've loved hugs ever since I was a kid, and while I don't think I seek them out more now than I did before I got top surgery, I definitely enjoy them more now that I don't have boobs. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I'm now always conscious of not smushing my boobs into people when I hug them, and that was something I had to adapt to after a lifetime of not having to worry about them, but I'm happy it went the other way for you. Come back next week as we wrap up with discussion of sex and just how touch-starved we might feel. Thanks for being here, Erin.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, let's wrap up with one final survey comment that felt like it was pulled directly from my own soul. Hugging now feels like I can pull the person even closer to my heart than before. Yes, 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 forever yes. When I hug people now, it is pulling their heart to mine and letting them know that I love them. Yes, even people I just met. Yes, even you. If strangers I've never met can hate me for who I am without even knowing me or meeting me, I can love you for who you are without even knowing or meeting you. I love you, and the world needs to know it. And if you want, I'd be thrilled to hug you and show it. Tilly Bridges, end transmission. Tilly's Trans Tuesdays is hosted by Tilly Bridges and Susan Bridges, with audio editing and sound mixing by Jillian Morgan. The written essay version of this week's topic and all past topics is available at Tilly'sTransTuesdays.com. Special thanks to Daisy and Jane for the use of Sorry Not Sorry as our show's theme music. Please stop by and show your support at daisyandjane.bandcamp.com and soundcloud.com/daisyandjane. You can find me at Tilly Bridges on Blue Sky and on Mastodon at tillybridges at mastodon.social, and you can find Susan on those at Susan L. Bridges. You can find Jillian at Audio Jillian on Blue Sky. You can join the Tillyverse Discord server by following the link at the very bottom of Tilly'sTransTuesdays.com. We hold regular watch parties for the Matrix films and other trans movies where I do a live Q&A, and it's blossomed into a wonderfully supportive, compassionate, kind community of friends. We'd love to have you join us. If you'd like to keep up with all the writing that Susan and I do, you can sign up for our newsletter at birdguestbroadcast.com. If you enjoy this show, please take a moment to leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts. The largest segment of our listeners find the show there, and more reviews equals a higher profile, which means it will reach more of the people who need it. Thank you for your support. For more information, visit pendantaudio.com. Thanks for listening.
You're weird.
I'm weird.
Okay, yeah, you're weird.